But I got a guest with me that I'll introduce here in just a little bit, and we'll take talk about whatever you want to talk about. But we got a couple different topics that we'll hit on. We always start, um, and we've got a whole suite of things that we're working on here at Continuum Ag surrounding carbon intensity, helping folks get their CI score, which was a system developed by the U.S. Department of Energy. We use the Argonne GREET model, which is what's laid out in the 45Z tax code as a tool that is supposed to be utilized. We still don't have all the final IRS rules, but the law says utilize model. So we'll see what happens there. We've been helping farmers get their scores and take them through our verification program. And that's really where we need to start. Our CI certification program has a deadline for enrollment of this week. If you want to get in on our first tranche of verification, we'll have our first batch of data go into the verifiers in October. So it is absolutely here. But if you do want to be part of the first batch of verification, first tranche, this is the final week to get enrolled. If you aren't getting involved right now, or you want to do just a little bit, wait on some of the rest of your acres, that's okay. We'll do additional verification batches or tranches as we get into 2025, likely in March or so, and likely another batch over in July or so, sometime next summer. So those will be look back verifications for the 2024 crop, and then we'll get into 2025 verification after that. But all of this boils down to it takes data. If we're going to help decarbonize biofuels, that starts on the farm, just like decarbonizing any other supply chain as well. Got to have the data, starts on the farm, and your data validity is what's going to bring value to these supply chains and what we can utilize to actually pass through audits and create the tax credits. So this tax credit's 45Z. It's a biofuel tax credit. And like I said, still no rules. There was a couple of events last week out in Washington, D.C., and Secretary Vilsack was there addressing the crowd. And he was indicating that, they are working on this. It's a high priority and that they are planning on having this done before this administration leaves office. So lots and lots of chatter about that here over the last week. Lots of folks saying, yeah, we're going to get this 45Z rules out before this administration leaves office. So hopefully they do it right. But what we do know is that the 45Z rules are due to be preliminary, written by the IRS. They will unveil the preliminary rules, and then there's a 60-day public comment period that is due to take place where we all can voice opinion and help them to make sure that adjustments are made if needed. The biggest potential one that might need some work is if the government chooses to go with a climate smart bundle approach, which is what they did with 40B, and it basically ruins the whole concept. If you have to stack certain practices in a small suite of practices, you have to bundle them together. I think it's really gonna hinder innovation, hinder people's ability to participate, and really stifle the interest that we are seeing. So we're pushing for them to use the actual GREET FDCIC or the feedstock calculator, and give farmers the ability to document, quantify, and monetize their actual CI score. Be a lot more robust and more inclusive for everybody. So that's what we are really pushing for. But we'll see what the rules end up being, and we go from there. But and maybe I'll tee in my guest here. This is David. He is a new sales agronomist with us. He's also my brother. He's been an intern for Continuum Ag when he was going to Iowa State, but he's been living up in South Dakota for the last while here now, working for a company up there. But now he's back with Continuum. Happy to have him back and helping out on the sales side. David, maybe give a little bit more of a background and intro on you and talk a little bit about, kind of what brings you to Continuum.
For sure. Yeah. So as he was saying, I'm his younger brother. So I was obviously kind of watching and learning as Mitchell developed this company, this goal, and this direction that Continuum Ag is in. And while I was up in South Dakota and I was working, I met with a lot of farmers, and quite often the topic of carbon intensity would come up. I recognized the importance behind it, of course, after listening to Mitchell and hearing him describe it and explain it. But as I was working up there and meeting with these farmers as well, the amount of questions that I got really kind of spoke to me about, how much interest there is in the ag community, as well as how many unknowns there are for a lot of the people that are out there. So now that I'm back here, that's definitely my main direction of, talking to these farmers and getting them to build an understanding about carbon intensity and be able to provide those benefits to them just because, I recognize and I've been able to learn how important as well as the high potential behind CI and getting your scoring on your farm has. So I'm definitely happy to be back here and helping out Mitch and um, getting things moving, get the ball rolling with a lot of people and get their CI scores
Yeah.
out there. That way they can share in the fun.
So a lot of those farmers that you were talking with, like, a lot of interest in it. And like you said, you were representing a different company, but they were expressing a lot of interest in CI. Why do you think there is such an interest? What, where are they hearing about this? Like, why is their interest so piqued when, when the topic of CI is brought up?
Yeah. I mean, first off, for the area that I was in, obviously carbon is a big conversation point in South Dakota itself just because of the high volume of ethanol plants. Um, there's constantly the conversation, especially right now, about pipelines and about what ethanol plants are going to do in order to drop their own carbon scores. And that falls back a lot on the ears of the farmers in those areas that would be affected, as well as the ones that are selling to these ethanol plants year after year. So of course that they would be the ones that are going to hear about the carbon stuff and know that there's chatter about it in the community around them. However, they are still kind of wondering like, how does this affect me? Where do I play a role in this? And when they hear about Continuum Ag and the CI scoring, they hear about how there's a farmer first direction with carbon intensity. That really gets their minds rolling about, what is this and how can I get involved? So when I would come out there and I was, working within the kind of climate smart type commodities area, um, I obviously would have that come up in conversation with these guys about how does this affect my carbon intensity on my field. And of course, being Mitchell Hora's brother, that rolls into a whole conversation then about CI scoring and what that means for those farmers in that area. So I think there's definite interest
Yeah.
not only in area specific places, but the conversation is coming up more and more often that the carbon market area now of the ag industry is becoming more developed and a little bit more mature than where it used to be. And people are really starting to recognize the potential for growth and for definite economic benefit behind getting involved. So I think that
Yeah.
it's a bundle
That's
of
all.
different, yeah, factors going into it.
No, it's awesome. And I think that's right. The farmer to farmer piece, obviously, that's what we're all about, helping farmers to get their scores and own that data. Because I think if they're going to make sure that the farmer gets their fair share of the money, they need to maintain control of the data and control of their destiny, so to speak. So, I mean, it's the whole point of everything we're doing. And a little
A
sneak preview for the. Sorry, am I cutting out?
little bit there.
Hopefully back, but
There you
uh,
go.
little sneak pre little sneak preview for everyone that and getting your CI scores and stuff. We're actually going to be switching, and we've been charging like $25 to do them right now. It's like, hey, let's just help farmers get their scores, not charge anything for it. So here really soon, we're going to be taking the paywall away. There's a couple of logistics things got to sort out, but a little sneak preview for the CI Chit Chat listeners that CI scoring through topsoil will be free here soon. It should be in the coming days or within the next week or two. So excited to do. I think it's the right move, and really we want to just help as many farmers as we can get their CI score, and get to that billion bushel challenge goal that we've set for ourselves. And we're well on our way, of course, already. But we want to go and help more farmers to get these scores and make sure that they understand that their data is very valuable and that they need to be in control.
Yeah. No, I'm super pumped
That
about
brings up, because is that, do you think that, David, maybe your thoughts and stuff on that, on farmers just getting their preliminary CI score, at least obviously our real program is CI certification and getting
yeah.
your field level data verified. But even getting your base CI score, I mean, you've helped a lot of guys get their score already. What's their kind of take and response just seeing that CI score?
Yeah, I'd say that the preliminary score is incredibly important in this. Just kind of like I was saying there, that the carbon market itself and everything surrounded by it was kind of an unknown for a while there, and being underdeveloped for so long. Now that we've got it to a place where we can actually um, monetize it and get it to a point where we can see the dollar to dollar value per acre and per bushel is incredible, that we can show farmers exactly how much it's worth on the acres there, or at least give them a pretty close to accurate, idea of what it's worth. Just because, I mean, if you're not paying attention to it and you really, for the longest time, you hear about it, but you're not really sure how it affects you, that preliminary score gives you that first kind of look into how much the carbon is actually worth per acre. For the longest time, you would hear different rates and you would hear different programs that you could get into, but how do you really know how much yours is worth? And this preliminary score gives you that first look in at what it is worth. And I think that's
Yeah,
incredibly useful to these farmers, and definitely it puts more than the foot through the door. It gets them halfway in, I would say.
yeah, yeah. And for farmers that are on, or folks that are going to be telling people like, "Hey, Continuum's doing free CI scores now," we are running the full GREET model. We're not taking shortcuts on it. It's not a simplified version. We're not using defaults in there for certain pieces. Like, it is the full blown thing. And we have tested it over 1,000 times manually, testing a CI score ran in topsoil versus the actual GREET Excel file. And we are dead on. Like,
Yeah.
we are running the actual full GREET CI score. And it really worries me that there's a lot of people coming out there with different CI scoring tools and different calculators, but they're taking shortcuts or they're displaying the data in incorrect units when it comes to 45Z, or they're using assumptions, stuff in different components, and therefore not getting a farmer their really accurate score. And it just scares the crap out of me that all these different tools are going to be displaying different scores when the scoring system is very standard. It's the GREET model developed by the U.S. Department of Energy, first, clear back in 1994. Like, we have a standard, we have set systems here, and we need to be abiding by that. And so that's part of what's prompting us to say, like, all right, we've been tossing around this idea of making CI scores free for a long time. Let's do it, because there's a lot of different calculators out there now. There seems to be new ones. Every month there's a new company that's now getting involved in CI, and that's great. We welcome it. We want to work with those companies and talk with a lot of them. But like, gosh darn, like, we have got to use the real full-blown GREET model and get farmers their actual CI scores, so that we're all talking apples to apples here. And that's what we're doing. I think that's a really key thing. Our side, farmer, you own your own data. And number two, this is the full-blown GREET model. not a modified or shortcutted version, and we're giving it to you in the actual units that's needed for 45Z, and trying to make sure that you got the best tools right there at your fingertips. So there's a lot of confusion out there. I was just helping one of our farmers that had his score ran by his local ethanol plant, and the ethanol plant versus us, and I ran this stuff even in the actual Greet Excel model, just to make darn sure and double check myself. But we were more than 20 points different. On the ethanol plant was giving him a super high score versus the reality of his farm in topsoil and in the actual Greet model. The scores were massively different, like not even in the same galaxy. And we really got to make sure that we are getting the accurate data. So whoever you're, managing your data with or run your scores, that's great, but just make sure that they're doing it to the letter of the law. Obviously, we don't know all the final rules yet, but laid out in the law, it says Greet model. It says kilograms of CO2 equivalent per MMBTU. Like, we have got to be following what is laid out in the law. But I don't know, David, you've heard a lot of mixed messages and stuff from farmers. What are some of the other things that you're hearing, or misconceptions and such?
Yeah, I mean, for being on the outside and getting the questions about carbon intensity, it typically would come from people that have looked into it in other aspects and other areas, and being able to take them through and get their free eye scoring and everything like that. You hear a lot of really good reviews directly off of that. A lot of what they talk about is number one, there's very little hassle to it. It's very simple to be able to get your information in and get your scoring and build that knowledge with little as little for your actual input and your actual effort into it. Um, Outside of that, then, they talk about how the dollar to dollar and the dollar to bushel percentage is so much higher for our scoring, where they can see, how much it's totally worth. There's just complete transparency where you can see every little aspect to it. And I think that that plays a huge part into, like I was saying, that the carbon atmosphere or not atmosphere, the carbon circle that we're in, and the importance of that in the market has been just kind of an unknown for a while. So being transparent and giving all of that information back to the farmer definitely creates that line of knowledge and trusting in that, where they know every bit of information about it. So there's always good
Yeah.
things every time I go out there and I get to show people how it all works.
Yeah, and we show the full potential value of 45Z since we don't know what the farmer cut is going to be. None of the ethanol plants have come up with what their actual, 45Z payments are going to be since we don't know the rules yet. So that's why we show the full potential value of the 45Z credit. It's not to create division. It's not to like try to incite people that, hey, my score's worth all this money. That's just not true. We don't know what your score is going to be worth yet, but we know the value of the 45Z credit, at least to the extent of what's laid out in the law, and then it's going to be nuanced for every single ethanol plant. But David, I think
Yeah, we've got a question here for you,
put
and
a
I think it's
question in the and anyone else that's got questions, put them in the chat. We'll let David read them.
I think it's actually great timing for this question as well,
Go ahead.
because this week I saw combines in the field, and with all the conversation about CI scoring and about the carbon market and how these ethanol plants are going to react, for these people that are out here in the field, let's talk about, what are they going to do with these crops that they're taking out right now? Are they able to move them now? Do they need to store them? What do we need to do with the corn and beans that we're pulling out right now? Do we have to wait a while
Yeah,
before we can really benefit, or what's the next move here?
it's a toss up. unfortunately, we don't know the right answer to this one yet. So, my answer today though is if you've got to sell the corn, if you need the cash, if you don't have the space, like if you've got to move corn, do it. Like keep paying the bills and do what you got to do. Um, we don't know what the rules are going to be yet. So here's a couple different scenarios. Number one, it could be that you sold the grain and we don't end up with the 45Z rules here yet for a while. Or the rules come out and say the grain has to be delivered in 2025 and you miss out on a potential premium on that 2024 crop because it was delivered in calendar year 2024. I think there's going to be some opportunity for an ethanol plant to say, yeah, we brought in this grain for delivery in 2024, but we knew it was low CI, so we've been holding on to it. And then we turned it into fuel in 2025, and therefore it would be subject to a look back premium. So that would be the hope. So if you do sell grain today, or if you sell grain yet this fall and deliver it, the hope would be that the ethanol plant is able to bought 2024 crop from, bring in that data and calculate the CI score. So that's hope number one, is be able to do a look back and get compensated for your data. Number two would be if they do a book and claim, like what the RFA is pushing for, the Renewable Fuel Association, then you could sell the grain, but then sell the CI certificate separate. And that'd be a home run in this scenario. You sold the grain, but you created the certificate, you could sell that separately. So that'd be another way are hedging and playing with the markets a little bit, buying crop on paper and playing around with things that way. That's something to look into. And unfortunately, part of the answer is try to hold on to crop if you can, and try to actually, sell it in once we do know more of the rules. But if you have to sell crop and you got to pay some bills, you got to do it. Do what you got to do. Try to hold on to the data as much as you can. Talk to the folks that you're selling your grain to and make sure that they know that you've got your CI score. Make sure that they know that you've got good data and that if a program arises that you want to participate and that you've got these guys at Continuum Ag that are helping you to manage your data, and we'll go to battle with you and try to help you to get compensated for that work that you did. But yeah, the real answer is we don't exactly know yet today. This also brings up some of the push we were doing around the ADM program. A lot of farmers that we work with sell grain to ADM. Obviously, they're a huge buyer, and they have a program. I believe some of their preliminary deadlines just ended last week, but we were encouraging farmers to go ahead and sign up for the preliminary enrollment, just so you at least have that as an option. And if you are going to be delivering grain to ADM, you can make a small premium on it. Since we don't know the 45Z rules, we don't know if you're going to be able to stack their program with 45Z. They don't know if they're going to be able to really participate in 45Z. We don't know if you're still going to be able to take an ADM premium and then sell your CI certificates via the book and claim process. Unfortunately, we don't know all the answers yet. And but we encourage, like, hey, at least if there is a program, do the preliminary sign up for it, and hopefully we get some IRS rules sooner rather than later to create some more clarity. But unfortunately, until we get the IRS rules, we're kind of almost in a spot where we got to hold our breath here a little bit and try to be diligent, to be patient and see what the best program is going to be. But if you've got to make a decision, you have to act. We're happy to help you to dig through the specific details and help you to make the right decision. But sometimes we've got to take the bird in hand, not knowing what the future is going to present ahead. But
Yeah, I think that definitely the preliminary score really comes into play on that situation, and definitely the situation that we're in right now of knowing, what you have out there and what the potential is that you have. That
yep,
definitely plays a part in, what do I do with it? Do I sell it immediately? Do I sit on it for a while? Um, I think that makes a big difference in that
yeah,
decision.
That's a really good point. Knowing what your anticipated score is, right? So on the farm profile, you're just getting a farm level score, right? It's not necessarily your
Yeah.
actual, not field by field. You got to be in CI certification for that, where we help you to do all this field by field. That's where it's more legit. But at least, yeah, to your point, David, knowing in general, like what do you think your score is going to be? What is the total potential value around it? And you can start communicating that with your grain buyers to say like, hey, the grain that I'm delivering to you, it does have a low CI score. Here's kind of in general what it is. How do we go monetize this together? And yeah, take the opportunities that present themselves, and keep paying attention. As soon as you know more, obviously, people are going to know. But this is a really tricky one, and doesn't have a great answer here today.
Yeah. No, I
All
think that
right,
definitely
final. Any final stuff, or David? Any questions like on your side?
on my side.
Yeah.
What questions do
Any
I
final
have?
question or final thought? Yeah.
Real quick one for you here. I kind of hinted at this yesterday. Was where's the benefit of CI scoring outside of ethanol? What is it?
Yeah.
Ethanol plants aren't everywhere. Not everyone's selling to them. What is the benefit of figuring out the farm by farm carbon intensity outside of taking it to an ethanol plant?
Yeah. If 45Z ends up being a book and claim, it's phenomenal opportunity for farms who aren't necessarily selling to an ethanol plant, which would include ours in a lot of cases. We mostly sell into the to livestock verticals. So if it's book and claim, it's a big deal. But at a minimum, get your preliminary CI score. It takes a couple minutes, and it's going to be free here soon. It's $25 today, or you can talk to one of our guys or connect with David. He can run your CI score for you, and at least kind of know what you're dealing with. And what I'm encouraging guys to do is call on the folks who are buying your grain. Maybe it's a specialty crop like a white corn or something. Tell them like, hey, there's this program going on over in biofuels. I ran my preliminary CI score. It's really good. Here's what it is. Should we do something with this? Should we develop kind of our own private program to be able to utilize this data and tell our story? And I think a lot of companies who are looking to decarbonize, they're going to want this type of data. They don't want to have tax credits to pay for it, but knowing the value of your data, knowing what your carbon footprint is, I think is a great spot to start. You can start having a conversation with those in your supply chain and seeing if you can develop kind of some of your own programs, um, and be part of the game, even though there's not tax credits to pay for it. But
Yeah.
I think there was a real quick final question just came in.
Yeah. Just clarifying the preliminary score versus the certified score. Yeah,
Yeah,
so to clarify that, yes, the preliminary score will be free very soon here, where you can go on, create your farm profile, and get your score just on a all farm basis, just as this is what everything is looking like. But yeah, the certified score where you're going acre by acre for tranche two, that will be then $7.
yeah. Yeah, CI certification is $7 an acre. That's the actual verification program, right? Where we're working with a third-party auditor, getting you verified CI certificates for every bushel of your production. What we're saying we're making totally free is the preliminary CI score, like David was talking. I think of it more so as like it's just based on your crop. So it's one score for all your corn, and you plug in your general default practices. It takes just a couple of minutes. You can do it on topsoil.ag, your preliminary. We don't do it that's not at the field level. Doesn't include any boundaries, doesn't include any of the actual agronomic data yet. It's just to get you, just a baseline. CI certification is where we've got to charge for that. We've got significant costs incurred on our side,
Patch.
and you're paying us to help you to get verified. But now you own your data, you're in control, and we help you your fair share of the dollar value for it. So anyway, David, good to have you. Good to have you on board. the and,
Oh man, we lost him completely, huh? Well, I'm not sure if he'll be able to join back in, but yeah, no, happy that you guys were able to join on this morning. If you have any other questions for Mitchell or I, we'll be happy to answer them. But definitely have a good day. Have a good harvest season now that we're getting into it, and let us know if there's anything we can do to help. Thanks, everyone.